Hello and welcome to the Advanced Audit and Assurance Practice to Pass session for September 2018 examination being organized by ACCA Pakistan. I am Kashif Kamran, your tutor. This is the fourth day and the final day, and the agenda for the fourth and final day of this Practice to Pass session is to focus on reporting. Now, in the session today, I will be doing two practice questions with you, one from June 17 exams, the question number 5, and one from the June 16 exam, the question number 4. Now, it is very, very important for each one of you to be good on reporting. Reporting now will be a compulsory question under the new format of the paper, because in the old paper format, it used to come in the section B and you had a choice of either attempting it or not attempting it. But in now the new paper format, it is still in the section B, but now it is all mandatory. So whether you are good on reporting or you are weak on reporting, you struggle with reporting or you had been very good on reporting, irrespective of that, you have to attempt a question on reporting now. So it's very, very important that you become good on a question on reporting. So I'll be doing two questions with you. One is June 16, one is June 17. Both are the question number 5, and I will be using them as illustrations for you to help you out in this case. Now, secondly, in my session today, I will be focusing on the fundamentals because those fundamentals are very important to solve a question. So I'll be spending just 15 to 20 minutes on building up the fundamentals. But the very important thing where I believe students go wrong in an exam paper when they attempt a question on reporting is stick to rules. Stick to rules. Don't break them, because a lot of time students break the rules. Remember, reporting is rule-based. ISA 700, ISA 701, ISA 705, ISA 706, ISA 720, and the ISA 570, which is ongoing concern. So all of them are very important, right? All of them are very important, and they're all rules, right? So I hope you must have read the Examiner recent article, which is on the techniques for a reporting question and how you can be good on a reporting question. And the examiner has specifically covered the student blunders in a reporting question. And the examiner has very clearly informed in the reporting article, highlighting the common errors the student do in the exam paper on a reporting question. So if you have not yet considered that, please do read that exam technique article, which is on reporting, and I'll be showing you the glimpse of the article so that you exactly know that you have to read this article into your preparation. Now, understanding the requirement is very crucial, right? Because if you don't understand the requirement, you will not be solving the question the way you should be solving it. A lot of time, student does not understand the requirement of a reporting question, and they take in their own conclusions, right? They take in their own conclusions. So it is very, very important that you understand the requirement. So I'll be spending time in the session today to give you a better understanding of the requirements and which requirements are high probable for the exams on Monday, and the marking scheme. Because if you don't know the marking scheme and you know the requirement, you might misuse the requirement by writing more or writing less. So my focus today would be on 4 things. Be good on the fundamentals, stick to the rules, understand the requirement, and the marking scheme. This all is very important. Let's build that within maximum 30 minutes and then start on with a practice session. Now, something which is very important for all of you to know, if I take on my Word file, which I have been taking consistently in all the last 3 days, to demonstrate how to go about it. Okay, the first thing, the requirements. what you get in a reporting question, what are requirements in a reporting question. Now, please remember one thing. Those of you who have appeared in the June 18 exams and you're repeating P7 for September exams, and those of you who are going for the first time in the Advanced Audit and Assurance exam for September, please remember one thing, that in the June 18 exam, which is also uploaded now on the ACCA website, contains critical appraisal of the audit report. So that was very probable for June 18 exams, right? And it did materialize. So you might be wasting your time when you are on Thursday and your exam is on Monday doing critical appraisal again. So chances of critical appraisals are next to zero this time, but the chances of other requirements, which I will be demonstrating in the session today, are very important for your exams on Monday. Let's see what requirements are important, keeping in mind the June 18 exam and what came in a June 18 exam. So critical appraisal of the audit report came in the June 18 exams. So no chance of that reoccurring. Let's see what requirements looks important for your exams in September 18. Requirements and the important requirements. Because if I write important requirements, then you will give it importance, right? Okay, number one. The number one requirement, which is important, is explain the matters, comma, and the impact on the audit report. You must have seen this question many times, right? In the past paper, a typical question which comes on reporting saying, explain the matters and the impact on the audit report, a question mark. Secondly, it says, explain the impact on the audit report, which is a very mainstay. You cannot get a question 5 right without an impact on report, which is such an integral part of a question number 5. Explain the impact on the report and recommend further actions necessary. Now, these three things are very important for your exams in September. You should know what matters are, number one. You should know what is an impact. Again, the impact coming in the second question. And you should know what are actions. What are actions in a question on reporting? So I have to demonstrate you three things today, right? I have to demonstrate you what matters are, what is an impact, and what are actions. So let's start understanding each one of them. Okay, if I first go down with matters in a reporting question. In a reporting question, what matters are? The first matter in a reporting question is materiality. Now, please remember one thing, because it is a reporting question. When you comment on the materiality, fine, you will take that 1 mark for materiality. But remember that in a question on reporting, when you are identifying the materiality, you should identify materiality. You should identify the materiality of the issue. Materiality of the issue given in the case study on all items, that is, you will find it on the revenue if given, you will find it on the profit before tax. At times examiner give you all three of them, at times examiner gives you two of them. There are many cases in the past paper which gives you the revenue number as well as the profit number in a reporting question, right? And also the total assets. So whatever the issue is, you will divide the issue with all three of them if they are present in the case, right? You will divide them by revenue, you will divide them by profit, you will divide them by the total assets, and on whichever it is higher, you will take that. On whichever is higher will be taken. Whichever is higher will be taken. So you have to find the percentages on all three of them, or on all on two of them, and on whichever it is higher, you will utilize it. You will utilize it. So that is the rule number one for reporting, right? That in a reporting question, you have to focus on materiality, taking into context materiality with revenue, materiality with profits, materiality with total asset, and on whichever it is higher, you will focus on it. Second, you have to focus on accounting treatment. That is the second meta. And you have to focus on the accounting treatment because accounting treatment will give you 1 mark. Now, the accounting treatment is so very important to the advanced audit and assurance exam, right? You know how to work on accounting treatments even in a risk question. So in a reporting question, you need to comment on the accounting treatment. So you have to comment on the treatment. And you need to comment on whether it is right or wrong. You need to comment on the treatment, identifying the wrong element, because it's a reporting question, right? So you have to find the wrong element, because the wrong element will tell you the impact on the report. So be critical of the accounting treatment given in the case study on reporting, and try to identify the wrong element in the accounting treatment, because that will give you another 1 mark. So when the examiner asks you methods in a reporting question, try to comment on the materiality first and then the accounting treatment. And then what the examiner is asking impact on report. So when the examiner asks you impact on the audit report, now be careful here. When the examiner asks you to write an impact, a lot of time students just write one single statement in exam paper and they expect the examiner will give them all the marks for impact. See what the student writes normally in an exam paper when they're writing an impact. The student writes like this. The student says, the auditor will give a qualified opinion, full stop. You cannot write that blunt line and expect examiner will give you all the marks the examiner has kept for impact, because you have never imagined how many marks the examiner keep for impact. Now I will make that realization today in my practice to pass session, how many marks examiner keeps for writing the impact on report. Or the student says the auditor will give a qualified opinion, or the student says the auditor will give the meta in an emphasis of a meta paragraph. You cannot just write a sentence like such and expect you score all the marks on impact. So these are wrong statements, right? They cannot give you full marks in exam paper. Now let me demonstrate you how you write a proper impact. Now, when you are writing a proper impact in the exam paper, first try to understand how many marks you have. Number one, the minimum marks you have for impact, minimum marks for impact on report is equal to 3 marks. Now, to gain those 3 marks, see what you need to do. First of all, you need to tell examiner what is the issue. Sum up the issue. Tell examiner what's the problem, what's the issue. Sum up the issue briefly. Then telling examiner what's the issue, then tell examiner what's the significance, or what's the scale of the issue. What's the significance? What's the scale of the issue? Is it immaterial? Is it material? Is it pervasive? What's the scale? Because you cannot do a reporting question without finding the percentages. So you need to find the percentage. So you need to tell your examiner or assessor what's the significance. So what's the significance will give you another 1 mark. And now knowing the significance and knowing the issue, you can now sum up and telling examiner what's the impact. What's the impact on the audit report? And that will give you another 1 mark. Now try to understand one thing. The issue in the case can be negative and the issue in the case can be positive. And you know what can they be? The negative issues are two, right? Number one, financial statements are misstated. Financial statements are misstated because of two things, right? Financial statements are either misstated because of a wrong accounting treatment, or financial statements are misstated because there is no disclosure. No disclosure, a wrong accounting treatment, no disclosure, no accounting entry, no accounting entry. And we know so many times in the past paper, examiner keeps the question on reporting on a wrong accounting treatment, whether it relates with disclosure or it relates with the debit and credit. The financial statements, negative issues. Auditor is unable to obtain evidence. Auditor is unable to obtain evidence. How many times the examiner has given a question that auditor is unable to obtain evidence? You must have seen that military research question where the management was not giving evidence to the auditor on military research because of the confidentiality nature. You must have seen that question way back in 2012 exam when there was a computer virus attack. And because of the computer virus attack, the auditor was unable to obtain evidence. So these are negative things, right? Financial statements are misstated, auditor is unable to obtain evidence. Positive issues are many, right? Positive issues, you know what positive issues are. Positive issues is when disclosure is given. Now, you know when disclosure is given, normally it leads down to an emphasis of a meta paragraph. So positive issues needs to be identified properly. Disclosure is given. That is a positive issue, right? That is not a negative issue. And there are many more examples. Disclosure is given. Company is a going concern. Company is a going concern. Material uncertainty exists, which is disclosed in the notes to the account, which is disclosed. Now see, it became positive. Disclosed. So when you see the word disclosed, that means it's positive. When you see the word it's not disclosed, it becomes negative. So you have to focus on whether the examiner is telling you negative things or positive things, because that is the first track. If you pick the track wrong, your conclusion will be wrong itself. So try to pick the issue in the exam paper right, whether the issue is negative or the issue is positive, whether something has been done right or something has been done wrong. Now, what's the significance? You're good on significance, right? I'll just be justifying the significance. Is it immaterial? Is it material? Is it pervasive? You should know these classes of misstatements. Either something is immaterial, either something is material, either something is pervasive. And you know how important these are, right? Because if something becomes pervasive, the impact on the report is different. If something becomes material, the impact on the report is different. If something becomes immaterial, the impact on report is different. And what is the impact? The impact can be in a form of an opinion, and the impact can be in a form of a paragraph. I hope all of you know that. The impact can be in a form of an opinion, right? Negative issues. Negative issues leads to opinion. When you have a negative issue, the negative issue leads to opinion. Qualified opinion, adverse opinion, disclaimer of opinion. So you should be good on that. You should know that when there is a negative issue will result in either a qualified opinion, adverse opinion, or a disclaimer of opinion. And you know, qualified links with material, and adverse links with pervasive, and same goes with disclaimer. Disclaimer relates with pervasive. So you should know the class to identify what will be the impact. Will the impact be in the form of an opinion, or will the impact be in the form of a paragraph? Now there are so many paragraphs in the report, right? Paragraphs are linked with positive issues, right? Paragraphs are linked with positive issues. How many paragraphs are there in the audit report? The most important paragraph, MURGC. Now you know MURGC comes for positive things. When the company is a going concern, material uncertainty exists, which is disclosed in the notes, you will give an MURGC paragraph. So MURGC paragraph come when it has been disclosed. So disclosed is positive, right? MURGC never comes when it is not disclosed, because if it is not disclosed, then the auditor will either give a qualified opinion or an adverse opinion. Same happens with emphasis of a meta paragraph. Now, emphasis of a meta paragraph also comes for when a disclosure is given. So MURGC, material uncertainty relating to going concern paragraph, has to come when the matter is positive. Emphasis of a meta paragraph comes when something is positive. Same happens with other meta paragraph. Other meta paragraph comes when something is positive, like a change of auditor. Then again, other information paragraph, OIP, other information paragraph, and CAM, key audit meta paragraph. They all link with positivity. You cannot add CAM for a misstatement. CAM cannot come for a misstatement, right? Because for a misstatement, either you have a qualified opinion or you have a adverse opinion, right? So you cannot even add a CAM for misstatements, right? Because CAM does not come for misstatements. Misstatements, qualified opinion, adverse opinion. If the auditor is unable to obtain evidence, you cannot add a paragraph, because if the auditor is unable to obtain evidence, either you will give a qualified opinion or a disclaimer of opinion. So paragraphs are linked with positive things. So see the scale now. In front of your screen, the first thing you need to identify is the issue. If you identify the issue right, you are on the right track for first mark. Then what's the significance? Identify the significance very clearly. And then what is the impact? Now, please remember, the impact can either be in a form of a opinion, or the impact can be in the form of a paragraph. Now, please remember, when you issue an opinion, when you issue a qualified opinion or an adverse opinion or a disclaimer of opinion, your audit report is negatively modified. I hope you know the audit report can be modified positively, and the audit report can be modified negatively. So when you issue a qualified opinion, or you issue an adverse opinion, or you issue a disclaimer of opinion, your audit report is negatively modified. And when you write a paragraph in the report, the paragraph in the report is audit report is positively modified. So please be sure of the rules. Please be sure of the rules, right? Zarafshan Ikram, OIP, how is that a positive issue? It is a positive issue, right? Because in another information paragraph, the auditor highlights the management and auditor responsibilities with regards to other information. So that is a very positive paragraph in which the auditor tells management and auditor responsibility with regards to other information in the document containing the financial statement. So that is basically a responsibility paragraph of the auditor. So that is one thing, right? So all of you are clear on impact. So when the examiner says write an impact on the report, so the impact on the report, you first need to think of an issue. You then need to think of the significance of the issue, and you then need to tell examiner, will you give an opinion or will you give a paragraph? So report can be negatively modified and report can be positively modified. No, Ima. If there is an inconsistency in the other information, you will still highlight that in the other information paragraph. So whether there is an inconsistency in other information or whether there is no inconsistency in the other information, it will still come in other information paragraph, right? So other information paragraph, whether there is a problem or there is not a problem, it will still come in other information paragraph. Right now, again, the focus of the session today is practice to pass. So again, I cannot highlight a lot of knowledge on reporting because the knowledge on reporting is shared right in like a regular course, but this is just like a practice to pass session where your focus has to be on practice. So you need to revise your rules, right? Monday is your exam paper. And I believe you were not waiting for this practice to pass session. You must be revising your rules, right? Revise your rules for reporting. Revise your rules for reporting, right? Okay, the next thing. Impact on report. Minimum marks is 3, right? And the impact on report, maximum marks are 5. Impact on report, the maximum marks are 5. How can you take maximum 5 marks for impact on report? You will first tell examiner the issue, and issue will give you 1 mark. You will then tell examiner the significance of the issue, just like above, 1 mark. You will then tell examiner the impact. Impact will give you 1 mark. Then you will tell examiner the positioning. Positioning of the impact. Well, you need to tell examiner, for example, you're saying I should give an opinion. So you should tell examiner, should the opinion becomes the first paragraph of the audit report? So you should be telling the position of the impact. Opinion. Is opinion the first paragraph of the audit report? So you should tell examiner that opinion should be the first paragraph of the audit report. You need to tell the position. You need to tell the position. Basis of opinion, you should tell examiner the basis comes after opinion. So you need to tell the positioning of the impact, because the position of the impact in the audit report, position of the impact in the audit report will give you that 1 mark. So you should know the order of the report. You should know the order of the report. Please revise the order of the report. What comes first, what comes second, what comes third, right? And position of the impact. And the last thing is the type of report. The type of report you will issue. Whether you will issue a modified report, whether a modified report will be issued, or an unmodified report will be issued. Now, you know, modified reports are of 2 types, right? Either you issue a positive modified report when you add a paragraph, or you issue a negative modified report when you add a opinion, or the report can be unmodified, right? When you issue an unqualified opinion, Abbas Rizwan, position of the report, no, position of the impact in the audit report. Read the statement carefully. Position of the impact in the audit report. Where will you put the impact? Whether it will be the para 1, para 2, para 3, para 4, para 5. So it's the position of the report, no, it's the position of the impact in the audit report. So carefully read the sentence, right? Okay, so impact on the report can give you 5 marks, right? Impact on report can give you 3 marks. So you need to see the exam paper, how many marks the examiner is giving you. If the examiner is giving you 5 marks for impact, then you have to make this answer. If the examiner is giving you 3 marks for impact, then you have to give the above answer on top. Okay, and everything is giving you 1 mark, right? And the last thing, which is very important for this exam setting in September, either you can get a question on matters, you can get a question on impact this time, or you can get a question on actions, which is very major part of a question on reporting. Now, this is one last thing I'm doing, and we are exiting from this and we're starting with practice, because practice will really help you to understand the temperament of the exam paper. Now, when it comes to writing actions, when you're writing actions in a reporting question, when you're writing actions, each action is worth 1 mark. Each action is worth 1 mark. Now, for example, actions are taken when there is a problem, right? Actions are taken when there is a problem, right? Actions are taken when there is a problem. Now, how many problems are there in a reporting question? In a reporting question, there are 2 problems. Actions are taken when there is a problem. And there are 2 types of problems. 2 types of problems in a reporting question. Number 1, financial statements are misstated. That is one problem. And the second problem in a reporting question is auditor is unable to obtain evidence. Auditor is unable to obtain evidence. Now, these are the two problems, right? And the examiner says you need to write actions. Now think realistically. If I am writing actions when financial statements are misstated, for example, share-based payment expense is not recorded. Share-based payment expense is not recorded. And the examiner says recommend further actions. Recommend further actions. The question says the share-based payment expense is not recorded. I have to take further actions. So my first action would be what? I should first discuss with those charged with governance. I would first discuss with those charged with governance the accounting treatment relating to share-based payment expense. Your actions should start from polite, because your first action should be that you try to resolve the problem. See, I went to management telling them this is the accounting treatment. It's quite possible they listen to my accounting treatment. They listen to my accounting treatment and they rectify it. It's quite possible they don't know the accounting treatment. So see, my first action is very positive. Discuss the accounting treatment relating to share-based payment expense. Quite possible they listen to the accounting treatment and rectify it. Second, discuss with those charged with governance the proposed accounting entry. Tell them the proposed accounting entry. Tell them this is the entry you have to pass. Accounting entry. So first tell them the accounting treatment. And secondly tell them the proposed accounting entry. See, you're going polite so far. Discuss with them the proposed accounting entry. Now tell them, discuss if those charged with governance are reluctant to make the adjustment. Now see, you start with negative. Proposed means recommended, right? You are proposing them the entry. Proposing means you're recommending them the entry. Okay, so if those charged with governance are reluctant to make adjustments, now you will come with negative actions. Number one, discuss the implication on the audit report. Discuss the implication on the audit report. Tell them the implication on the audit report. Discuss the implication on the audit report if they are reluctant to do the adjustment. Second, discuss the implication. Seek a representation that those charged with governance are aware of the consequences of not adjusting the financial statements. See, you're trying to intimidate them. First you were very positive. Now you're telling them, okay, if you're not making an adjustment, I'll implicate the report. And I need a representation from you that you agree with the implication and that you are aware of the consequences. You are aware of the consequences of not adjusting the misstatement. See how slowly and gradually you are going. Now, seeking a representation will give them an intimidation, and they will say, no, I am responsible to the shareholder. They might rectify it. And if they're still not rectifying it, then you will go ahead and you will say, okay, issue the modified report. Issued the modified report, because they're not listening to you. And then consider the future of auditor-client relationship, because you've issued a modified report. So consider the future of auditor-client relationship and consider the step down. Consider the step down as an auditor. So consider the future of the auditor-client relationship. Consider the step down. And finally, you can speak at the AGM. Speak at the AGM, telling shareholder the circumstances. If you want to step down, you should first meet the shareholder, right? Now see, my actions, they started from polite actions, first speaking with management, telling them the entry. If they listen to me, the problem is resolved. If they don't listen to me, then I'm going with my negative actions. Step down means resign as an auditor, right? And to resign as an auditor, you need to go down. Now, if the problem is second, if the problem is unable to obtain evidence, now if the auditor is unable to obtain evidence, then what would be the actions? The first action, if the auditor is unable to obtain evidence, is discussed with those charged with governance. For example, the problem is auditor is unable to obtain evidence, bracket open, auditor is unable to obtain evidence. For example, there is a computer management is reluctant, management is not giving access to records. Management is not giving access to records. Suppose the management is not giving access to records. I hope you remember the question we did yesterday in the session, Moosewood Hospital. That was a question on ethical and professional issue. But what if the question comes on reporting, the same question? Was the financial controller not giving us the evidence in the question yesterday? Moosewood Hospital. He was hiding the spreadsheets from us. So if the management is not giving us access to records, then what can happen? Discuss with those charged with governance the auditor responsibility to access all information. So remind them, right? Give them a reminder. Discuss with those charged with governance the auditor responsibility to access all information. So try to give them a reminder. Secondly, you say, discuss with those charged with governance. To remove the limitation. So discuss with those charged with governance to remove the limitation so that the auditor can work. So see, you're so positive so far. You're telling management that I have access to all information. Then you're telling management, remove the limitation so that I can work. Now, if they're not listening to you, then you have to come down with negative. If the management, if those charged with governance are reluctant to remove limitation, then everything will be the same as you wrote above. First, discuss the implication on audit report. Then seek a representation that they are aware of the consequences. They are aware of the consequences. Then issue a modified report. Then consider the future of the auditor-client relationship and speak at the AGM. See, you can learn these actions, right? And you have to then link them to the case study. You will learn these actions and adapt them. I hope you know adaptation. If I learn these actions, I can adapt to the case. I can take the name of the company. If I take the name of the company, it will adapt to the case. If I take the problem in the case study, and I write the problem, I am adapting to the case. Management is not giving us access. Which access? I can write that access from the exam paper. So I can do the adaptation, and I can survive with the list of actions here. So this list of action can give you a survival in the exam paper, right? So please ensure that you go through this list and you can adapt this list intelligently, cleverly in your exam context. Actions are important for September exams, so please don't rule them out. Consider them as good as possible. So 3 requirements are important for your exams, right? Impact on report is a very important requirement. Actions is a very important requirement, and matters is a very important requirement, because the critical appraisal came the last time. Now I will do the questions with you on 3 things. I will do a question with you on matter, so I know I can tell you how to write it. I will do a question with you on actions, so I can tell you how you can adapt the actions. The action which I just given you, how would you adapt them? And third, I have to do a question with you on impact on report. So let's start on with the practice session now. This was just a drilling of some concepts to know the requirement of the question. Now let's start with the drilling phase. Now let's open an exam paper and start on with drilling. Simon, one time you have to write the full form, like those charged with governance, and then you put a bracket TCWG, and then in your whole paper you can use the short form TCWG. One time you write financial statements, then put FS, then in the whole paper use the word FS. One time you write statement of financial position, then in the bracket write SOFP, and then you write all in all the paper SOFP. So one time you have to write the full answer, right, Simon? And then you can abbreviate it and then use the abbreviation in the exam paper, because abbreviation saves your time, but one time you have to write full. Okay, now let's go down with practice. The first question we're taking today is June 17, right in front of your screen now. Very recent question, June 17. Rocket company. Rocket is a listed company. Okay, see the requirement of this question. The requirement of this question is comment on the methods described above. So examiner is saying comment on the methods described above. Now we know what methods are, right? Methods are materiality and methods are accounting treatment. Explain further actions necessary. Explain further actions necessary. Now knowing I have 7 marks and methods are 2. The method is materiality, method is accounting treatment. So 7 minus 2, how many actions will I be writing for examiner? How many actions will I be writing for examiner? 2 marks for methods. How many remaining? 5. So I'll be writing 5 actions. See how you plan the answer. So how many marks will I keep for methods? I'll keep 2 marks for methods. And how many marks will I keep for actions? 5. So I have to be critical. Then the examiner says, discuss the implication for the report. Discuss the implication for the report means the impact for report. And how many marks is the examiner giving me for impact on report? And if you just write one sentence, will you get those 5 marks? See, impact on report and how many marks is the examiner giving me? 5. Did I just demonstrated in my session that how to take 5 marks? So see, if the impact on report comes for 5 marks and you just write one single sentence, the auditor will issue a qualified report. Will you get 5 out of 5 for just writing a sentence? I hope you're getting the breakdown of 5 marks I just given you 15 minutes ago. In the 5 marks, what will you tell examiner? What's the issue? 1 mark. What's the significance? 2nd mark. What's the impact? 3rd mark. What's the placement? Where will you place it in the audit report? And what type of report will you issue? So let's demonstrate a proper answer which will give you an understanding of how to write a meta, how to write an actions, and how to write impact. Now you know actions, right? I just wrote them for you and I'll be adapting those actions for you in the session today. Okay, let's read what is in the case. If we read the case, it's not a big case, so let's read it from here. Okay, can you just spend 2 minutes reading yourself and then I'll start analyzing? Can you just go over the first and second para, take out your calculators, use your calculators and try to identify the materialities and see what is the problem. Are we unable to obtain evidence in this question, or is the financial statement misstated? Is the issue positive? Is the issue negative? Try to identify, is the issue positive or negative? What is the problem? You have 2 minutes, right? Go over the case, prepare yourself for the answer. Okay, if you have read the case, Rocket is a listed client operating in the engineering industry. The company manufactured machinery for use in the aircraft, defense, and marine sector. The audit for the year ended 30th of April is almost complete. The revenue and the profit before tax figures in the draft financial statement. So we don't have the total asset number here, right? We just have revenue. The revenue and profit numbers are 1437. 1437 is the number of revenue and 139 is the number of profit. Okay, that's great. Now we know these numbers, right? And we know why the examiner is giving us these numbers. The examiner is giving us these numbers to identify the materiality. Okay, I'll be using those percentage. Salman Yusuf, thank you for that. We have revenue and profit before tax, right? Salman, you took total assets. Okay, it's 12.23% of the profit. Thank you for that, Salman, and 1.18% of the revenue. Muhammad Bakas, thank you for that. Okay, I'll be using it. Wait for it. Audit procedures identify two sales transactions in the final quarter of the year that related to two different customers, but where the goods were delivered to the same location. Further investigation revealed that the goods were delivered to a third party who agreed to store them, So the third party agreed to store them until the customer were ready to receive delivery. So I hope you're getting the track right. The goods have yet to be delivered to customer. So have we met the performance obligation as per IFRS 15? The goods have yet to be delivered to customers. So have we met the performance obligation criteria of IFRS 15? No. So the goods are yet to be delivered. The goods have yet to be delivered to customer because they are both building new facilities and neither is sufficiently progressed to receive the new machinery. The contract term explicitly state that Rocket Company is obliged to deliver the goods to customer for final inspection and acceptance, and the client has not agreed to any consequent amendments. So what is written in the agreement? The agreement says customer has to acknowledge the final inspection and acceptance. So have we met the performance obligation? This is basically a bill and hold arrangement. So Raj, that's perfect. This is basically a bill and hold arrangement. So have we met the final obligation? So can we recognize the revenue? And have we recognized it? How much revenue have we recognized? We have recognized a revenue of $17 million. So is that the problem? So let's see how to write the answer. June 2017, the question number 5, asking us three things. Number 1, asking us matters, then asking us actions, and then asking us the impact on report. How many marks we have for matters? 2. How many marks we have for actions? 5. How many marks we have for impact? 5. Let's fill the answer. Number 1, the revenue attributable to the two transactions. Okay, the revenue attributable to the two transactions amounts to $17 million, which is 1.18% of the revenue and 12.2% of the profit before tax, thus material to both the revenue and the profit before tax. So I got my first mark on materiality. Change of para. This is a bill. This is a bill on hold arrangement. This is a bill on hold arrangement. This is a bill on hold arrangement as per IFRS 50. This is a bill on hold arrangement where revenue should only be recognized when the performance obligation is met in full. That is, the customers have acknowledged the machinery. The customers have acknowledged the machinery. The customers have acknowledged the machinery, including the final inspection. It is written in the agreement, right, that they have to do the final inspection. So performance obligation will be met when the final inspection has been done and the customer have acknowledged. So we wrote the accounting treatment. So revenue, the percentage, and the accounting treatment, MT, right? Now comes the action. The customer have acknowledged the machinery, including the final inspection. Thus, revenue is recorded too early. Full stop. Actions. My first action. Should I be discussing with the Rocket those charged with governance? Discuss with Rocket. See adaption now. Rocket. Discuss with Rocket Company those charged with governance, and Simon C. those charged with governance, bracket TCWG, and I'll be using that now across my answer. Discuss with Rocket Company those charged with governance the relevant accounting treatment pertaining to bill on hold arrangement. See, I wrote the same action just 15 minutes ago on the Word file, and I have now adapted it to the case. Rocket Company case, the relevant accounting treatment pertaining to bill on hold arrangement. So I brought the case. Second, discuss with Rocket. Now I can use the short form. Discuss with Rocket Company, bracket Rocket. So I can use the short form later rather than every time saying the Rocket Company. Discuss with Rocket those charged with governance, the proposed accounting entry to rectify the revenue recorded. So the revenue has to be reversed, right? Then next, if those charged with governance shows reluctance to the proposed entry, the auditor should, number one, the auditor should discuss the likely implication of not reversing the revenue recorded, not reversing the revenue already recorded. See how I'm bringing the list to adaption here. Discuss the likely implication of not reversing the revenue already recorded on the audit report. Will I tell the implication? Will I tell the exact implication? No, because I have impact on report 5 marks. So am I using a journal word here? Implication. But I'm not telling what implication because I have 5 marks for that, right? So I'm writing a general journal answer here. Discuss the likely implication of not reversing the revenue already recorded on the audit report. Or you can make it more specific. Discuss the likely implication of not reversing the revenue, that is $17 million. See, more specific to the case, already recorded in the audit report. So those of you who are concerned, how can we adapt the rote-learn list to case? See, I have given you a rote-learn list. Now I am adapting it to the case study. Okay, next, second, discuss the likely implication. Seek a representation from those charged with governance of Rocket that they are fully aware of the consequences if they fail to rectify the revenue fail to rectify the misstatement in revenue. See, I got my 5 marks, so I will not go after this. 1, 2. If those charged with governance shows reluctance, next mark, issue a modified audit report considering there is a material misstatement. You will not specify it till the time you come to impact on report. See, I'm using a journal language here. Issue a modified audit report. Which modified report? I cannot tell it here because I have 5 marks for it, because there is a material misstatement. So I'm using very journal language when I'm writing the question answer on impact action. So have I got my 5 actions? 1, 2, ABC, 5 marks. See how easy they were. And this is exactly the proper answer length I'm giving you. Okay, now comes the next thing, impact on report. So to write an impact on the report, what should we tell examiner first? The issue. So let's write the issue first. Number 1, the financial statements of Rocket Company. The financial statements of Rocket Company are misstated because the company has recorded revenue too early. Thus, currently, the revenue and the profit are overstated by $17 million. So I wrote the issue right. The financial statement of Rocket are misstated because the company has recorded revenue too early. Thus, currently, the revenue and the profit are overstated by 17 million. Yes, Muhammad Rizwan, ABC have 3 marks, right? There are 3 sub-actions. Okay. Telling examiner the issue, now I will tell examiner the significance. The revenue recorded early is material to both revenue and the profit as shown above in the calculations. Rather than repeating it, because you've already shown examiner here, right? 1.18%. You've already shown that examiner 12.2%. Rather than repeating it, you're just saying the revenue recorded early is material to both revenue and the profit as shown above in the calculation. Thus, the auditor will issue a qualified opinion. That is an except for opinion on the financial statements of the Rocket Company. See, I wrote the issue, I wrote the significance of the issue, and I wrote the impact. I got 3 marks. Now I would change para. 3 marks after, I will tell examiner the qualified opinion. Now see, this is the placement, right? The qualified opinion relating to revenue wrongly recorded. The qualified opinion will be the first paragraph of the audit report, followed by the basis of qualified opinion in which the auditor will justify to shareholders the reason of giving the qualified opinion, due to the qualified opinion, the auditor will, due to the qualified opinion, the audit report will be negatively modified. See, I got my 2 marks. This is exactly my 5 marks, right? My first mark was what? Let me do it. My first mark was what I told you in the session. My first mark was basically from here to here, which was basically the issue. So the issue gave me the first 1 mark. Then my second mark was from here to here, which was basically the significance, how significant that is. And I didn't repeat the significance because it was given above. So I saved my time in the exam hall. Then my third thing was this to this, that is the impact. So I'm telling examiner what's the impact. So have I got my marking scheme done? As I told you at the beginning of the class, the issue, the significance, the impact. And then in the last paragraph, from here to here, what I did, I tell examiner the placement. What I tell examiner in this paragraph, I tell examiner the placement. Where should I place it? The placement. And I tell examiner the type of report, the placement and the type of report I will issue. So was that exactly the breakdown I told you at the beginning of the class for impact on report if it comes for 5 marks? Yes, Sayyid Haider Razan Naqvi, it's important the last paragraph because you have 5 marks. The first paragraph is only giving you 3 marks. I just mentioned that at the beginning of the session today, how to take 3 marks, how to take 5 marks. Is everyone coming clear on the drafting? See how easy the drafting was if you know the requirements. Yes, Zarafshan Ikram, the actions are written in bullets, right? Actions are written in bullets. How easy that was. If you know how to write matters, if you know how to write actions, if you know how to write impact, how easy the question is. What was difficult? What was difficult in it? And I just given you a rote learn list of actions, right? Did that really help you in writing the actions on Rocket Company? Did the rote learn list help you in writing the actions for Rocket Company? Otherwise, in the exam hall, half the time you're confused what actions to write. So now what's the case? You know the actions and you take them to the exam hall on Monday. If a question comes on actions in a reporting context, then you can adapt them to the circumstances. And is everyone getting the marking scheme of impact on report? If it would have been 3 marks, should I write the second para or not? If there were 3 marks for impact, should I write the second para or not? And if I have 5 marks, will I write the second para? If I have 5 marks, will I write the second para? So are you understanding 3 and 5 marks? Okay, that's great. Okay, that's one question, right? Which we have attempted on the context of the first question, which is very, very important for exam paper, right? Because this question contains matters, this question contains actions, this question contains impact, and this is very, very important for the exam on Monday. Okay, now we have to do the second question, right? Which is from June 16 exams. Okay, at the end of the session, if possible, 15 minutes in the end, I'll be emphasizing on what is important from other assignments, because I think even today, even the day yesterday, there are so many questions coming from students on other assignments. So I need to clarify which other assignments can you prepare for Monday, which are important. And I try spending 10 to 15 minutes on other assignments, because that was a really real concern of students yesterday and today, right? So even though the time is not for it, but I will still spend 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the session on other assignments. Okay, now this question in front of you, June 16, question number 5, we're just doing a planning of this question and we'll take a break, and post break we'll start directly with the answer. This is a big question, right? So if you have the hard copy of this question, you can read that during the break. This is June 16, question number 5. Let's see what is the requirement. The requirement says, now please carefully look at the requirement, because this is the blunder you will do in the exam hall. Explain the matters that should be discussed with management in relation to each of the uncorrected misstatements. So explain the matters that you should discuss with management in relation to each of the uncorrected misstatement. So you know what matters are, right? Which matters will be discussed with management? What is the number one matter we will discuss with management? Quick answers. What's the first matter we should discuss with management? Materiality. Good. And what's the second matter? What's the second matter we will discuss with the management? Accounting treatment. Good answers. Good answers. So explain the matters that should be discussed with management. So I'll be discussing the materiality with management, and I'll be discussing the treatment with management. Good. Including an assessment. Now the examiner is taking the third matter from the case. See, this is case specific. This is case specific, right? Including an assessment of their individual impact on financial statements. Including an assessment of their individual impact on the audit report, or the individual impact on the financial statement. You need to be clever. If you say examiner is asking the impact on the audit report, you will think about qualified opinion, adverse opinion, disclaimer of opinion. Is he asking for impact on the audit report, or is he asking for impact on the financial statement? Are these two different things or the same thing? What if you misunderstood this question in the exam paper and you write impact on the audit report and you come happy out of the exam hall, I got my marks? Is he asking for impact on the audit report, or is the examiner asking for the impact on the financial statements? Financial statements. So impact on the financial statement is what? Impact on the financial statement is the debit and credit. The debit and credit is the impact on the financial statement, right? What will be debited? What will be credited? Over or understatement, right? Kurutulen. Financial statement. Impact on financial statement. Overstatement, understatement. Impact on the financial statement. Something overstated in the financial statement, something understated in the financial statement, right? So please be clear. Explain the matters, materiality and the treatment, and the examiner is saying including an assessment. So is that the third matter the examiner wants from us? Is that a specific third matter the examiner wants from us? Please respond to my question. Is that the specific third matter the examiner wants from us? So explain the matters. Number one, materiality. Number two, treatment. Number three, an assessment of the individual impact on the financial statement. Assessment of the individual impact on the financial statement. So please be careful about this. Just need to write it over here before we get to the break. See this. In the exam, if you are in a hurry, if you are in a hurry, you are doing a big mistake, right? Because if it says the individual impact on the financial statements, that is something different, right? And if the examiner says individual impact on the audit report. Is everyone in clarification? These are two different things. So in the exam, will you read it carefully? In the exam, will you read it carefully? Is the examiner asking for impact on financial statements? Or is the examiner asking for impact on audit report? Will you read the question carefully? Or will you just look at the word impact and you say, okay, by default, it has to be on the audit report? Because 99% students thinks by default, the impact is on the audit report. Right? So impact on the financial statement is what? Understatement and overstatement. Understatement is the impact and overstatement is the impact on the financial statement. And the impact on the audit report is what? Either the impact on the audit report is an opinion, qualified, adverse, disclaimer, or the impact on the audit report is the paragraph, emphasis of a meta paragraph. Impact on the audit report can be CAM, can be MURGC, etc. So impact on the audit report is different, right? And impact on the financial statement is different. Is that clear to everyone? And how big that blunder is? How big that blunder is if you just not read the question carefully and you come out of the exam hall writing an impact on the audit report when you should have written the impact on the financial statements. Is that very, very important? So please read the question very, very carefully. Okay, then see what is the examiner asking in the second part. Assuming that the management does not adjust, any of the misstatement, discuss the effect on the opinion, and discuss the effect on the audit report. Can you see the and here? Discuss the effect on the opinion and the audit report. So are these two different things for all of you to understand? The effect on the opinion and the audit report. So the effect on the audit report is either the report will be modified or unmodified. So two different things. Can you see the word and? Effect on the audit opinion and the audit report. I hope you can see that word and over there. Such important word there. If you overlook the word and, you will think it's the same thing. So examiner is saying what? Assuming that the management does not adjust any misstatements. So are we taking them in aggregate form? Yes or no? Are we taking them in aggregate forms? Does not adjust any misstatements. So are we taking them in aggregate form here? And in the first A part, are we taking them in the individual forms? Because the examiner was saying in the first part, individual assessment. See this word in the first part, individual. I hope you can see this word in the first part, right? Individual. Individual assessment. So the first part is individual, the second part is aggregate. But one last thing. Is the examiner saying in this question, impact on the audit opinion and impact on the audit report? So are these two different things, impact on the audit opinion and impact on the audit report? So impact on the audit opinion means you have to tell the right opinion. And the impact on the report is the type of report, and the placement in the report. How would you place it in the report? So opinion is like a qualified opinion, but the audit report is how would you place it in the audit report? Will you place it as the first para, second para? and will the report be modified or unmodified? So that will be the impact on the report. So there are two different things, right? Impact on the opinion and impact on the report. And how many times this happens that we take an early ruling on a reporting question? See, two big mistakes. Impact on the financial statement, impact on the audit report, two different things, right? Then the examiner was saying impact on the opinion and impact on the report, two different things. So will you take them carefully in the exam paper? Okay, now I'm taking a break. You will read the question during the break. I'll try putting it on the screen as much as possible, and you can refer to your revision kits or past papers to see this question. Try taking out the percentages during the break. The percentages of the four problems. There are four problems in this case. Try finding the percentages so we can complete them as early as possible. And I can spend just like a good 10 minutes on the other assignments and the overview of other assignments. Okay, let's go back to the case. Put this case in front of you, and I'll be taking the marking scheme after the break, right? I hope you know the marking scheme for matters and impacts and everything, right? Okay, the case is in front of you. There is a table. The table contains the four misstatements, and you have to work on these four misstatements, right? You need to find out the percentages of these four misstatements. Okay, off to a break, and I'll be resuming in like 12 minutes from now. That's exactly at 10 p.m. the Pakistan Standard Time. Okay, welcome back after the break. Let's start drilling this exam paper. And Nurul Sabri, your question, the answer is yes. In a reporting question, we find materiality on all classes, revenue, total assets, and profits, because on whichever it is higher, we'll use them. So in a case of a reporting question, you have to do it right. Okay, let's find structuring the answer. We have 14 marks for the first requirement, and we have 6 marks for the second requirement. So what is the examiner asking us in the first part? Explain the matters in the first part, right? Okay, let's structure the answer. Okay, let's go down with this proper answer now. This is the June 16 exams, and we're working on the question 5. And the first requirement of this first question was we have to consider the matters including the individual assessment, individual impact on the financial statement. So examiner was giving us something very specific in this question, that you have to take the individual impact on the financial statement. So technically our matters will become 3, right? Now, how many marks how many problems we have in this question? We have 4 problems in this question, right? Number 1 is we have impairment. Number 1, we have impairment. Number 2, we have the borrowing cost. Number 3, we have the irrecoverable debts. And number 4, we have investment. So technically, for each one of them, do we need to write the materiality for each one of them? Do we need to write the treatment for each one of them? And do we need to write their individual impact on the financial statement? Are you understanding that? For each one of them, how many things we have to do? How many things we have to do for impairment? 3, right? So if I have 3 marks for impairment, that is materiality, treatment, and the individual impact on financial statement. So how many marks will I get? 3 marks. The same goes down with the borrowing cost. The same goes down with the borrowing cost. The same goes down with irrecoverable debts. And the same goes down with investment, right? Now, if I take 3 marks, how many marks examiner has given me for this first mark? Examiner has given me 14 marks for this first part. So how many marks am I taking? I'm taking 12 marks. Where are the 2 marks? I got 12. Where to get the 12? Where to get the 2 extra marks? No, not at all. Now the examiner has put the marking scheme very clear. The examiner says for each calculation shown for the 4 misstatements, you will get half a mark. So examiner has kept half a mark for the calculation. That is a very specific marking scheme of this only question. If you will see the June 16 marking scheme, if you get time to download that, you will see examiner has written in the marking scheme half a mark for the calculation. Now, calculation of what? I'll just demonstrate you. Half a mark calculation will come from where? It's not in all cases, it's in some cases, but half a mark is for the calculation. The aggregation, Muhammad Wakas, aggregation is in the second part, not in the first part. That is the 6 marks, right? 6 marks is the aggregation. Okay, let's see how to go down with it. Impairment. First thing on impairment, materiality. Sorry, the first thing on impairment is impairment is how much to be recorded? $0.4 million is what we should record, right? Auditor wants and more impairment loss, true? So the impairment loss of $0.4 million is equal to 6.25% of the profit before tax, 0.38% of the total assets, and 0.52% of the revenue. So which percentage is higher here? Which percentage is the highest in this equation? 6.25%, right? So let's highlight the highest percentage, right? So what should I write? I should tell examiner, thus I'm writing it in bullets just to complete the question within times. I want to give you a track of this question, right? You will be putting it in the paragraph forms. Thus it is material to profit before tax. It is material to profit before tax, right? Comma, it is trivial. It is trivial to total assets and material to revenue and material to revenue. So it's material to the profit, right? 6.25%. It's material to the revenue, and it's trivial to the total assets, right? So the highest percentage is on the profit. I'll explain at the end of the question what trivial means, right? So anyone asking question on trivial, please hold questions on trivial. I'll be illustrating what trivial is, because I use the word trivial here, right? It's trivial. If you have read the examiner article, evaluation of a statement, you must not have raised that question, right? So that means you've not read the article, Rehan. You still have 4 days, read the article of examiner, evaluation of a statement. Okay, but I'll still justify, right, what trivial is. Okay, next, treatment. When I'm emphasizing on the treatment, let's see what's wrong in the treatment in this question. During the year, Boston Company impaired one of its factory, which is good. The carrying value of the asset attributable to the factory as a single cash generating unit is 3.6 million. The fair value less cost of disposal and the value in use was estimated. So that's the risk, right? Estimate 3 million and 3.5 million. And accordingly, the asset was written down by $100,000. Audit procedure revealed that the management used the growth rate attributable to the company as a whole to estimate the value in use. Using the growth rate for the factory, the value in use is 3.1. So management determined the wrong value in use because they took the growth rate attributable to the company. They should have taken the growth rate attributable to the factory. So auditor is saying the value in use is 3.1 rather 3.5. So what's the problem? What's the treatment? In the treatment, we will be writing the value in use should be taken on the growth rate applicable to the factory, not to the company as a whole, and the calculations of value in use is subjective. The auditor has suggested that the value in use should be $3.1 million and a further impairment loss of $0.4 million should be recorded. So what is the impact on the financial statement? The impact on the financial statement is currently the profit is overstated. Is that true? Currently the profit is overstated. Is that true? Is the assets overstated? Because the impairment loss has been under-recorded. So currently the profit is overstated, and the assets are the assets understated or overstated? The assets are overstated. So currently the profit is overstated and the assets are overstated because we have not recorded the impairment loss. So this is basically the impact on the financial statement, right? This is the impact on the financial statement. Now you can take half a mark for calculation. You can take half a mark for showing the calculation. What calculation? the calculation of the impairment loss. How would you show the calculation of the impairment loss? Okay, let's do that. How much is the cash generating unit carrying value? The carrying value is 3.6. The carrying value is equal to 3.6 minus the recoverable amount. Carrying value minus the recoverable amount is equal to 3.6 minus 3.1 is equal to $0, 0.5 million. And out of the $0.5 million, how much the company is recognized out of the 0.5 million? Out of the 0.5, the company has already recognized $0.1 million. So how much is the impairment loss? $0.4 million. So you have to show this working to examiner, because the examiner is saying if you do this calculation, I'll give you half a mark for it. So that is an extra special thing in this question, right? That is an extra special thing in this question. So we got the materiality, we got the treatment, and we got the individual effect on the financial statement, and we got the marks for impairment loss. Okay, that's good. So we got 3.5 mark. 3 plus 0.5. 3 plus 0.5 is equal to 3.5. Okay, next the borrowing cost. With the borrowing cost is $0.075 million. The borrowing cost is 0.075 million is equal to 1.17% of the profit before tax, 0.07% of the total assets, and 0.09% of the revenue. So which is the highest percentage here? The highest percentage is 1.17% of the profit is the highest percentage. But interestingly, none of them are material. Thus, it is immaterial to the profit before tax, and trivial to total assets and revenue. Now you will get yourself more confused here, right? You will say, now what's immaterial and what's trivial? What's the difference? Again, if you have read the examiner article, Evaluation of Misstatement, you must have been very clear on this. But again, I'll be clarifying that. Then next, what's the accounting treatment? The accounting treatment is simple. Being a qualifying asset, the borrowing cost should be capitalized as part of the cost of asset, rather should be expensed out. I think the company has expensed out, right? The finance cost, it should have been capitalized as part of the cost of the asset. Full stop. Rather should be expensed out, which is $0.075 million. So currently the profit before tax is understated or overstated? The profit before tax is understated, because we have to, you can see the accounting entry here, right? If you see the accounting entry, it is a credit. There is a credit, right? There is a credit of $75,000 to the P&L, right? So it is understated. So currently the profit before tax is understated, and the assets are understated or overstated? because we have not capitalized them. Assets are understated. So that was the impact on the financial statements. I don't think so we can do any calculations here, right? It is a directly 75,000 charge. We have an absolute value here. We have an absolute value here. We cannot do any calculation. So we'll not get any any half mark here. So that is it, right? So that is just the 3 marks for interest charge. We cannot do any calculation because that is a full $75,000 value. Okay, let's take the next one. The allowance. The allowance for irrecoverable debts. Now, when you work for allowance for irrecoverable debts, number one, the allowance for irrecoverable debts is $0.065 million, which is 1.01% of the profit before tax. It is 0.06% of the total assets, and it is 0.08% of the revenue. So it is immaterial to the profit before tax, and it is trivial to the total assets and revenue. Right. The highest percentage here is the profit before tax, right? The profit before tax is the highest percentage. The profit before tax is the highest percentage. Okay, the next thing, what is the accounting treatment here? If you look at the accounting treatment, I think the only problem here is that they have not properly recorded the allowance, right? Shortly after the year end, Cleveland Company paid $30,000 of the outstanding amount due, but has since experienced further difficulty, leading to the primary lender presenting a formal request. Okay, because of the liquidation of the customer, it is likely that we recover anything, right? So because of the customer liquidation, the company should impair the receivables. The company should impair the receivable because of the customer liquidation. Customer liquidation, because of customer liquidation, right? Because of customer liquidation, the company should impair the receivables and should recognize further a further allowance for irrecoverable debts, that is $0.065 million. Now, what is the currently the profit before tax? Currently, the profit before tax is understated or overstated? Currently, the profit before tax is overstated, and the assets are overstated. Okay, that's good. That's the impact, right? That's the impact on the financial statement. Impact on financial statement. Now, can we do the calculation here? Yes, we can do the calculation. Half a mark, right? We can take half a mark for the calculation. Now, can we show the calculation to examiner? How much was the total receivable? $100,000. And out of that, the 5% was provided, right? The company has already provided the 5%, which is 5,000. So company has already provided how much? 5,000. Out of that, out of the 95,000, the company has already created an allowance of 30. Company has already created an allowance for 30. So how much is left? The remaining left is $65,000, and the auditor thinks this should be written off. You should write this off, write off. So see how we got to the 65,000 amount, right? Yes, it is allowable, right? That is the proper term to put. So see, half a mark for calculation. The calculation leading us to $65,000. So we have done 2 calculations so far, right? So then we come down with investment in the associates, the investment in the share. Now, the last one says the investment is $0.0435, right? Is that the correct value? 0.0435, okay. Million is 0.67% of the profit before tax, 0.04% of the total assets, and 0.05% of the revenue. So thus the highest percentage here is 0.67 of the profit, right? Again, is the highest percentage. So thus it is thus it is trivial to profit before tax, total assets, and revenue. So it's trivial to all, right? It's trivial to all this time. So see how minor the percentages were? How minor the percentages were in this question? Have you seen such percentages in any question? Decimals, examiners giving you percentages going into decimals in this question. So what's the problem? The investment in shares should be recorded at the fair value, should be recorded at the fair value at year end rather than at cost. Thus the investment rather than at cost, right? That is the accounting treatment. Investment in shares should be recorded at the fair value at the year end rather than at cost. So thus currently what is happening in the situation? Thus currently is the profit understated or overstated? The profit is understated, right? So you can see the credit. And what about the assets? Is the assets understated or overstated? Understated. You can see the accounting entry, right? So currently the profit and assets are understated. So that is basically the impact on the financial statement. Now, can we show the calculation for half a mark? Half a mark for the calculation? We can, right? Okay, let's see how. How much shares we have? We have 150,000 shares. 150,000 shares multiplied by what is the cost? The cost was 4. So multiplied by 4 is equal to 600,000, right? So that's one calculation for half mark. And then second, how much is the fair value? $150,000 multiplied by 4.29 is equal to 4.29, right? 4.29. What is the answer? 4.29 is equal to 150, 643,500. 643,500. Okay, that's good. 643,500. So we got two values, right? And then can we work on the difference? The difference between the two values is how much? The difference is 43,500, which should be recorded. So is that exactly the entry the auditor wants, 43,500? So there were two calculations, right? One calculation of this, 600,000. That was one calculation. The second calculation was $4.29. And the last answer we got is the difference. So we got 1 mark here, right? Not half mark, 1 mark, because we did two calculations. Okay, so have we consumed our marks? Are you understanding the marks in the first 14 case? So I can start the B part. Is everyone clear with the first 14 marks? We worked on materiality, we worked on the treatments, we worked on the individual impact on the financial statement, and the more important thing, we worked on the calculation. Why we worked on the calculation? Because the examiner has given that in the marking scheme, right? That we have to work on the calculations for half a mark in this question only, right? Just in this question. Okay, now just before I start my last part, which is the 6 marks requirement, let me make you clear on something. Okay, now all of you know that materiality is determined on profit before tax, materiality is determined on total assets, and materiality is determined on revenue. Now, something is pervasive, something is material, something is immaterial, and something is trivial. Now, please do read the examiner article. The examiner article says trivial and immaterial are two different things. Trivial and immaterial are two different things, and a lot of students consider them as the same thing. So let's see, is trivial, and the article is evaluation of misstatement, right? Evaluation of misstatement is the name of the article. Evaluation of misstatements is the name of the article, right? So examiner is saying trivial and immaterial are two different things. Evaluation of misstatement. So that means trivial is a different misstatement and immaterial is a different misstatement. Now you know profit, something which is 5 to 10% of the profit, and thereafter 5 to 10% of the profit, 5 to 10% of the profit, and thereafter is material, but the thereafter has to stop somewhere, right? Thereafter cannot be infinite. Total assets, 1 to 2% of the total assets is material, and thereafter. Something is material to revenue if it is half to 1% of the revenue, and thereafter. Now, thereafter is important, right? Because we have to take a finite here, because thereafter will make it pervasive. Something which is 60% or more will become pervasive to profit. So thereafter will stop where? Thereafter will stop at 59%, right? Thereafter it will become pervasive. So from 60% things will become pervasive in exam paper. So use that as a better rule of thumb in exam paper. 60%. 60% of or more will become pervasive in percentage. Now something less than 5% is immaterial. Something less than 1% is immaterial. Something less than 0.5%. Please, you're all accountants, right? You're all accountants. Less than means if it is 5%, it is still material. Less than 5. Less than 5 will start from where? 4.9%. Less than. Okay, then trivial. Less than 5% till where? Less than 1% of the profit will make it trivial. Less than 0.5%, less than 0.5% of the total assets will make it immaterial, and less than 0.1% will make revenue trivial. So now see my percentages. You can see my percentages after the session and today, how I judge in the exam paper what was trivial and what was immaterial and what was material. This table is very helpful, right? This table will help you to identify what percentage makes something trivial, what percentage makes something immaterial, what percentage makes something material, and what percentage makes something pervasive. Is this a good table for all of you? Will this table help you identify the 4 classes of misstatements? So examiner says these are misstatements, right? Evaluation of misstatement. Evaluation of misstatement. So how many misstatements are there? Pervasive misstatement, material misstatement, immaterial misstatement, and trivial misstatements. So can all of you find the 4 classes of misstatement? So examiner is saying trivial and immaterial are 2 different things, right? So now can you understand why I wrote trivial in my answer above? Because the percentage was trivial and we have to write that in the exam paper so that the examiner knows you have read the article of the examiner. So if you want to show an impression, you will show an impression to the examiner that yes, I have read your article. Okay, now the last thing in this question was to write what? The last thing in this question, which is basically the part B. In the part B, we have to write the aggregate. We have to write the aggregate impact on the audit opinion and the audit report. And how many marks the examiner is giving us? 6 marks. Okay, let's do the aggregation. We will get 1 mark for aggregation. 1 mark for aggregation. Can you do the aggregation? How much is the aggregation? 465 minus 118.5. We take the aggregation on the profit, right? So there is a debit, there is a credit. So will we minus debit from credit or will we debit plus credit? Is it debit minus credit or is it debit plus debit? Debit plus credit, sorry. You're all accountants, right? So should I find debit minus credit? So what is the impact on the profit? The impact on the profit is debit minus credit. So what's the impact on the profit? 346,500. Perfect. So what's the aggregate misstatement? The aggregate misstatement is the debit minus credit is equal to 346,500. So please identify the misstatements, right? That is basically what? That is basically 465,000 minus 118,500, right? That's how we found the 346. So 1 mark for the aggregation. Now 1 mark for the materiality. 1 mark for the materiality. Now you have to find the materiality of what? Materiality of 346,500 is equal to how much? Is equal to how much percentage of the total, how much percentage of the profit? 346,500 divided by the profit. How much is that of the profit? How much is that of the profit? 346,500 is 5.4% of the profit. Okay, and okay, 0.455% of the revenue, 0.45% of the revenue, and total assets, 0.33% of the total assets, 0.33% of the total assets. Okay, so thus it is material to profit before tax. It is material to profit before tax, right? And is it trivial or immaterial? Revenue less than 0.5% is immaterial. So it is immaterial to the revenue, immaterial to revenue, and total assets 0.33%. Total assets less than 1% is trivial, right? So it is an trivial to total assets. So I'll get my 1 mark out of the 6. Okay, the next 1 mark is the type of opinion. What will be the type of opinion? Which opinion should I be giving? The aggregate misstatements. The aggregate misstatements are 346,500. Is it material? It is material, right? 5.4%. So material misstatements. So for material misstatement, what I give? Material misstatements is equal to what? Is equal to qualified opinion. Qualified opinion. Okay, 1 mark. Qualified opinion, except for opinion. 1 mark. Okay. Then I will tell examiner that these are the 3 marks I got for the audit opinion, right? Now I have to work on the audit report. Now in the audit report, my first mark in the audit report will be the first mark will be the placement, and the second mark will be the type of report. For the placement, I will tell examiner 2 placements, right? The first placement I will be telling examiner is what? The first placement I will be telling examiner is the placement for the opinion. I will tell examiner that the qualified opinion will be the first para of the audit report. And the second placement I'll tell examiner would be the basis of opinion. Basis of qualified opinion will come after the qualified opinion para. So I got 1 mark for telling the placement of the qualified opinion and 1 mark for telling the placement of the basis. Now the type of report. Will the auditor issue a modified report or an unmodified report? The auditor will issue a modified audit report. That is another 1 mark. So see, have I got my 6 marks breakdown? Impact on the audit opinion and impact on the audit report. So whenever the examiner asks you impact on the audit report, you have to think about what? You have to think about the placement and you have to think about the type of report. Is everyone clear with the breakdown of marks, requirements? No, not at all, Suraj, not at all, Suraj. Okay, now is everyone clear how to write actions? Is everyone clear how to write on actions, marking scheme of actions? And have you got a list of actions from the session today? So will you prepare yourself effectively for actions? Okay, and what about matters? What about matters? Do you know what to write under matters now? Do you know exactly what matters mean? What will you be writing under matters? And how many marks you have for matters, right? And do you know how to write an impact on report now? How to write an impact on report and how to write an impact on opinion? Has these 2 questions clarified your concepts on impact? Right? So, and please remember the impact on the financial statement and the impact on the opinion are 2 different things, right? So if the examiner is saying impact on the financial statement, then you have to think about the impact on the financial statement. And if the examiner says impact on the audit report, then you have to write the impact on the audit report. Okay, now that is maximum. I am putting my emphasis on reporting because I have to spend the last 20 minutes on wrapping up your exam preparations for Monday and just a quick 10 minutes on what looks potential for other assignments. Okay, now first of all, give me a quick feedback. Day 1, we did risk. Day 2, we did procedures and evidence. Day 3, we did the ethical, professional, and quality control issues. And today we are doing reporting. What's the overall feedback on your preparation for exams on Monday? Did these sessions really help boosting your confidence for Monday exams? Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday you will be sitting in the exam hall for the advanced audit and assurance exam. So has these sessions really benefited you? And obviously these sessions were organized by ACCA Pakistan, practice to pass session. And I hope you really got benefited from these sessions organized by ACCA Pakistan. And the objective was to guide you on the right track so that most of you who keeps failing in 47, 48, and 49 marks can really benefit and go in excess of 50 marks. So best of luck for your exams right on Monday. Now let's come back and utilize the 20 minutes, the crucial 20 minutes we have. Okay, the first thing which I would like to discuss in the last 20 minutes with you. Okay, now listen very carefully. You have exams on Monday, right? You have exams on Monday. Nervous times, right? Stressful time. So, exams on Monday, 3 days remaining. What should I be doing? Are there any high probable areas I can focus on in the last 3 days? High probable areas where you can focus in the last 3 days? You must have studied the whole syllabus, right? These are high probable areas you should focus on in the last 3 days. I should be focusing in the last 3 days on audit risk, because audit risk has a potential for September exams, has a potential. So in the last 3 days, focus on audit risk, not on business risk, right? Focus on audit risk. Okay, in the last 3 days, focus on reporting, and in reporting, focus on matters, focus on actions, focus on impact on report. You will be wasting time if you're looking at the critical appraisal now. You will be wasting time looking at critical appraisal of the report. So please don't waste time on critical appraisal in the last 3 days. Focus on matters, actions, impact on report from reporting. In terms of other assignments, I favor due diligence in the last 3 days. Focus on due diligence, focus on forensic. Performance information came the last time. Performance information came in the June 18 exams. Less chances. You will be wasting time in the last 3 days if you're doing performance information. It just came in the last exam sittings. PFI came in March. So higher chances is of due diligence and forensic. These are probable areas for the last 3 days, right? You should go over the complete course. But now you just have 72 hours. So 72 hours, you should be focusing on audit risk, reporting matters, actions, impact on report. In other assignments, you should focus on due diligence and forensic as your priority. Should be your priority, right? And then obviously other areas are core, right? You can't leave EPQ, ethical, professional, and quality control issues. Can you leave them and go to the exam hall? Ethical, professional, and quality control issues? You can't leave ethical, professional, and quality control issues, right? Such important. You can't leave them. And you even can't leave evidence. Can you leave evidence and go to the exam hall? These are core areas, right? These are not probable areas. These are core areas. You can't leave them and go to exam hall. Yes, in terms of miscellaneous topics, you should focus on money laundering. You can get a question on money laundering for 5 to 10 marks. You should focus on using the work of others. You should focus on the opening balances. You should focus on opening balances. And you should also focus on professional skepticism. A question on professional skepticism. So these could be important areas from miscellaneous areas, right? Money laundering, using the work of others, opening balances, and professional skepticism. In the last 4 days, you can focus on them. And also you can focus on accepting a new audit client. You must be knowing there are questions in the past paper which have been on accepting a new audit client. So you should know accepting a new audit client and how to deal with the equation on accepting a new audit client. Yes, the question which comes on tender, a question which comes on the proposal document. So you should focus on that as well. So these are high probable areas where you should be spending time on in the last 3 days. And the 5 articles of the examiner, the 5 articles of examining team, which are techniques article. You cannot miss these technique articles, right? You cannot miss these technique articles. Examiner has written 5 articles on techniques, right? Ethics, procedures, accounting issues, ethics, procedures, accounting issues, reporting, risk. See, all core areas. Examiner has written an article. No new article, right? No new article for this attempt. These are only technique articles, right? These are only focused on techniques. These are techniques article, right? So please ensure that you read these 5 techniques article in the next 3 days. You have no current issues, right? No current issue for September exam sitting. So no current issue. Examiner only examine current issue when he puts an article. That is a very clear rule of thumb for advanced audit and assurance exam. So no current issues for September 18 exams. Okay, the last thing now. When you're looking at the new paper, in the exam paper, in this time, new paper format, sorry. When you are looking at the new paper format, what you should be focusing on. Let's see the time management for the new paper. Now, first of all, the 15 minutes of the reading and planning time. Reading and planning time. We know that this reading and planning time has now become flexible in ACCA exams. You can even start to write. Right? You can still start to write in this time, but I would prefer you keep it as a 15 minutes of reading and planning time. 15 minutes of reading and planning time, you should first read the question 1 only, that is section A. You will not have time to read the section B in these 15 minutes, right? First read the question 1 only, section A, which is worth 50 marks. Read and plan. Read and plan. What are you planning? You're planning what you learned in this practice to pass session. What are you planning in the first 15 minutes? You are planning for what? You're planning for carefully look at the requirements. Carefully look at the requirements. Underline the requirements. Underline them. See how many marks. See how many marks. Judge how much to write. Judge how much to write. And then read the case and identify relevant points from the case in 15 minutes. Now where the 15 minutes ends and you have read and planned the section A, now you need to write. So how much time should I take for writing? 90 minutes. I should take 90 minutes to write the section A, to write the question 1 from section A. So 90 minutes means 1 hour and 30 minutes. I should be writing my section A answer. Now where 90 minutes end, I should stop. Even if I have an incomplete question, and I'll go to section B. Now section B have 2 questions, each worth 25 marks. Now you will still take a 15 minutes from your time, and this will be a 15 minutes of reading and planning time for question 2 and question 3. Again, you will carefully look at the requirements. You will carefully read requirements. Understand them, see the marks, and then read the case. Read the case to identify points from the case. Now, how much time we have to write? The time we have to write is that for the question 2 and for the question 3. Now, You will ideally keep you will ideally keep 40 minutes for writing the question 2, and then you will keep the last 35 minutes for writing the question 3. These are times to write. Now, in the last 35 minutes, your speed will be very fast, so you can complete the last question much earlier than you completed the question 2. So I've kept 5 minutes less. I've kept 5 minutes less to the question 3 because that is the time in the exam hall when you're writing very fast. So you can take much less times, right? So this is exactly how you should be going down with time management of the new paper format. Do the paper in order. Do the paper in order. Do the question 1 first. Do the question 2 second. Do the question 3 third. Do the paper in order. Time management should not be an issue, right? Time management should not be an issue because the question paper has now become student friendly. 3 questions, 3 hours. So read the question paper carefully, right? A lot of time it happens that we rush to conclusions. So is it important to read the requirements carefully? Is it important to read the requirements carefully? Is it important to understand what the examiner is asking? Because a lot of time we read the requirement wrong. A lot of time we read the requirement wrong, and that results in the wrong answer. Is it important to give a proper focus to requirement? I normally tell students read the requirement twice and underline the keywords as we did in the practice to pass session. Emphasize on the requirement, which is very, very important. Yes, in terms of audit risk, examiner can give you a single company situation, or in terms of audit risk, the examiner can give you a group risk situation. Both are possible, right? Examiner can make a question on group risk. Examiner can make a question on single company. So audit risk can come on any context, right? Audit risk can come with analytical procedures, without analytical procedures. Audit risk can come with group risk or without group risk. So you have to be preparing yourself for both. So you should be practicing question on audit risk with analytical procedures. Let's write it here clearly. You should be practicing audit risk with analytical procedures. You should be practicing audit risk on group, and you should be practicing audit risk on non-group. Okay, if I give you 3 good questions for that, if you're practicing audit risk with analytical procedures, then practice June 17, question number 1. If you want to practice one good question on group, then practice June 16, question number 1. And if you want to practice a non-group question, then do June 15, question number 1. So these are 3 good questions, right? You can do on audit risk with analytical procedure, with group and non-group, right? So these are high probable areas, right? I believe audit risk is important for your exams on Monday. So please do give focus on that in the last 3 days. Reporting, focus on matters, focus on actions, focus on impact. And the rest is down there. Even the new paper format was discussed with you at the beginning of the session, day 1. And now I have given you the time management, how you should be preparing for the time management of the new paper. So I hope in the next 72 hours, it's time to do the icing on the cake. So in the next 72 hours, all of you should sit down with your learnings from the practice to pass session. And in the next 72 hours, you should spend time on the key learnings and try to focus on key aspects of things. In each area, there are key things, right, which you should be spending time on. And probably the best thing you can do in the next 72 hours is the 5 articles here. These 5 articles are too good. Read them and you will imagine as if the examiner is telling you what is good and what is bad. And that can really boost your confidence for Monday if you read these 5 techniques article. They're so important. They're so important. So make a strategy for the next 72 hours. You know where you are weak and you know where you are strong, right? So every student is different. So every student has to think what should I be doing and what should I not be doing in the next 72 hours, right? There had been numerous questions from your side, but probably due to time constraint throughout the 4 days, it was very difficult to interact with most of you. However, a lot of you were on the WhatsApp group, so I did had a better communication on the WhatsApp group. That was much better to communicate with all of you. Okay, how confident you are for Monday? How confident you are for Monday? Has the last 4 days helped you gaining confidence? Okay, that's wonderful, Shaza. 70%. It's difficult to uh, identify how you got that percentage, but that's very good percentage, 70%. Okay, that's really good, right? I hope these last 4 days you spent on this practice to pass session, the last 10 hours, must have increased your chances of not doing the blunders. So please avoid blunders and prepare yourself effectively for the practice for your exams on Monday. It was nice interacting with all of you over the last 4 days, and um, I, I would really apologize if I could not have answered your questions mostly, because that was a time constraint I have in this session. But I tried answering most of your questions on the WhatsApp group. So if you have any question, you can drop on the WhatsApp group and I will be responding them as effectively as possible, right? So that's the last minute tip, right? I can give you one final tip for your exam preparation. The final tip, which I will say the golden tip to pass P7, Advanced Audit and Assurance. Let's see what that golden tip is. The golden tip to pass P7 is adapt to the case, adapt to the circumstances. This is the only one technique which will help you pass. Adapt to the case. You cannot pass P7 or Advanced Audit and Assurance with rote learning. Adapt to the case, adapt to the circumstances. And a student who is good at adaptation, will pass the Advanced Audit and Assurance exam. Adapt to the case, So please, the case is very important, right? So this is the golden rule to pass your Advanced Audit and Assurance exam. That is to adapt to the circumstances. And I hope you know how to adapt, right? The more the better, And plus, use audit jargons in answering the questions, So the language will play a very critical part. You have to use the audit jargons when you're answering the question. Impress your examiner. How can you impress your examiner? If you adapt and you use jargon, is equal to you're making an impression, and the impression is equal to your success in P7, your success in Advanced Audit and Assurance exams. See how simple that formula is. Jargons, if I write evidence, I'll say sufficient appropriate audit evidence. If I'll write insignificant, I will say immaterial. If I'll say significant, I'll say material. See, these are some examples of jargons. So I have to speak in the audit language. I cannot speak in the language of a director. I have to speak in the language of an auditor. So the more you know the language of the auditor, the greater is your survival in the exam paper. Okay, best of luck to all of you for Monday. I wish you all a very best of luck for Monday. And my best wishes are with all of you for Monday. And I hope you will have a wonderful exam on Monday and you will come happy and optimistic out of the exam hall. And more importantly, you will pass on the day of exam. So thanks a lot for being in this session. And thanks a lot for being with me and learning some of the key techniques of advanced audit and assurance exam. Okay, that is it for this session, Practice to Pass, and I'm signing off. Um, Goodbye and Allah Hafiz. Have a nice day and have an effective preparation for your exams on Monday.